Over the past several days, Black Lives Matter has been embroiled in a major scandal over their fundraising. Where it's going, where's the money, who's in charge, no one seems to know. The Indiana AG says this is basically a scam and a house of cards. Even California is demanding to know what's going on with this money. It's so bad that Black Lives Matter, the official organization, has shut down online fundraising. No one seems to know what's going on with all of this cash, and I think it's upwards of $60 million. Now, this scandal is massive, but when we take a look at what's going on in Illinois, it ropes in politics, and I think gets substantially worse. The Democratic administration of Governor Pritzker in Illinois funneled COVID relief funds to a local chapter of Black Lives Matter under the guise of crime prevention. Intervention, please. Democrats funneling money to Black Lives Matter. It's obvious this stuff is happening, right? Now, the problem here is this is COVID relief funding. Sure, the Biden administration has said some of this funding will go to crime prevention because the insane policies of these statewide and federal level Democrats have resulted in an insane increase in crime. So yeah, they're like, let's take some money and try and stop this. But to send it to Black Lives Matter, who rioted throughout 2020, causing billions of dollars in damage, dozens of people are dead, and apparently one of the leaders of the organization, the local chapter that received this money, was even charged with crimes related to protests in Kenosha. Not crime prevention. No, this is your tax dollars being given to overt partisans. It's supposed to be going out to help us when our businesses are destroyed, when these policies have destroyed our economy, when we're in very serious times of strife. And instead, at least some of the funding, not all of it, ends up in the hands of extremists. It's absolutely remarkable. And a lot of these funds did go to legitimate organizations. And sure, you can make the point that we do want to stop crime, as I said. But Black Lives Matter is overtly partisan. They are overtly violent. They are overtly disruptive. Not every single one of them, mind you, but this is absolutely inappropriate. But not surprising. And now, of course, we're seeing, following news like this, many people are jumping ship from the Democratic Party, favoring the Republican Party for the first time in a long time. The view Americans have of the government, of what's going on in this country, is abysmally low. Joe Biden's approval rating is in the gutter. You take a look at this story, and okay, maybe some people say it's just $300,000. Then let me show you at the federal level, at the national level, what's happening with Black Lives Matter, with people calling it a scam and a house of cards. I'm not surprised. This year is going to be bad for Democrats, but you know what that means? They're going to lash out. The political establishment is going to lash out as hard as possible against channels like mine, against people like Steven Crowder, against everybody they can, because their only real chance at retaining any power is being ripped away from them. Their activist organization being gutted, being called a scam. So they're using nefarious tactics. The propaganda machine, CNN, is crumbling. Joe Rogan, more popular than ever. They're losing control. And as they do, they will thrash about violently in sheer panic. Let's read the story from timcast.com and then go over the major scandal rocking Black Lives Matter. But before we do, head over to timcast.com, become a member to please support our work. We are funded by you as members. All of these news stories, these investigations, the fact checking we do, it's only possible because you guys choose to go to timcast.com and directly support us. But also share these articles wherever you can. Share this video wherever you can. We don't spend money on marketing for the most part. There's some stuff like we advertised our book, but for the most part, we don't. It's just organic growth. If you believe in the work we do, become a member, help share our content. But don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Let's read the story and we'll break it down for you. Illinois governor gave $300,000 of federal relief funding to Black Lives Matter. The president of the Lake County chapter of BLM was charged with felony battery of a police officer at the beginning of 2021. Governor J.B. Pritzker diverted $300,000 in federal COVID-19 relief funds to the Lake County chapter of Black Lives Matter. The governor's Office of Management and Budget released a January 14th report to the Legislative Budget Oversight Commission detailing the distribution of the federal funds. The chapter is currently being evicted from its office across the street from the Lake County Courthouse, according to county records. According to a White House fact sheet describing the funding that was published in April, BLM received a grant to, quote, to stop the increased potential for violence in underserved and disproportionately impacted communities. The president of the Lake County BLM chapter, Clyde McLemore, was arrested in Kenosha, Wisconsin in early 2021 and charged with felony battery of a police officer. He was also charged with disorderly conduct for allegedly kicking in the door of a city courthouse and threatening a Kenosha police officer. McLemore previously pleaded guilty to criminal felony battery in Lake County. McLemore took part in demonstrations that gave way to destructive riots in cities across the U.S. following the death of George Floyd in the summer of 2020. "We won't stop protesting until we get that done," he told Merco Press in August of 2020. "I don't condone burning of buildings or looting, but I understand it. Them places got insurance. They'll be back up." That is evil. Evil, evil. These people are evil, man. These places don't have insurance that covers this. You sick individuals. It's a lie. It's an excuse. It's a manipulation to go around destroying, looting, and then be like, it's fine. They have insurance. When it came to Minnesota and they destroyed all of these buildings and they killed these people, they said, yeah, well, they got insurance. And then what happened? The insurance company said, we will not cover the total costs of removing the rubble of these buildings. Sorry, you can't rebuild. Some of these insurance policies don't even cover acts of rioting. So no, they didn't rebuild. You sick people. It's crazy, man. Shakita Cornelius, the co-chairman of the Lake County chapter of BLM, was arrested in November outside the Kenosha courthouse during the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. The 24-year-old was charged with disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and possession of marijuana, per Fox News. In addition to the money given to BLM, Pritzker's office used the federal COVID-19 funding to award 2 different grants to the Welcoming Center for Immigration Integration Services. Now, look, I got no problem with funding for immigration integration services. My question is that appropriate for COVID relief funding? Pritzker spoke favorably of BLM in June 2020. He participated in a march in the Chicago suburb of Madison on June 8th, 2020. He told reporters at the time that it was necessary to repair the damage done to Black communities. Because there is no justice without police accountability and reform. Because there is no justice without criminal justice reform. Because there is no justice without real investment in this community, Pritzker said at the event. Let me show you their report. When I first read this story, I said, wow, that's pretty bad. Diverting federal funding to Black Lives Matter under the guise of criminal justice intervention, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized that it was the COVID relief funding. Holy smokes, man. The money that was supposed to alleviate the problems of COVID-19 going to Black Lives Matter, who during a pandemic went out in their super spreader events that the media covered up. I don't actually think they were super spreader events. I don't know. But the media claimed they weren't. They destroyed buildings. They smashed them up. Man, I remember when this was all going down in Chicago, my hometown, when you had local aldermen, or local politicians, saying that they were pushing the rioters into the neighborhoods to protect the financial districts and the shopping districts. And then the governor is like, let's give these people money. As you can see in their own documents, expenditures of federal financial relief related to COVID-19. COVID-19? Is that a joke? Black Lives Matter? 0.3 in millions, $300,000 through December 2021. Are you kidding me? Now, there are other organizations. Check this out. For I see CJIA, Violence Prevention, elementary school, hospital, prison task force. I understand all of that. We can make arguments about all of that. I'm sure there's other stuff in here that we probably question. Violence interrupters. Okay, sounds good. Black Lives Matter. You know what, man? You got to understand. The political machine is taking money, your taxpayer dollars, and they're overtly funding partisan actors. Okay, it's not just this, it goes beyond this. Now, over in the fact sheet from the White House explaining what this COVID funding was for, they do mention local grant funding and the Department of Justice wanting to prevent crime and things like that. And I get it. All right. We have very serious problems with crime throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. But it's the Democrats' own fault. You see what they do? You see what they've done here? Look, me ragging on the Democrats is not an excuse for Republicans. They're trash too, but in other ways. There are some good Republicans. There's a few good Democrats, but there might be like 5 good Republicans and like 2 good Democrats, to be completely honest. This is what they do. The Democrats encourage, support, and even fund the extremism. Kamala Harris soliciting donations to bail out rioters. Then you get all of this destruction, and what happens? The Democrats come out and they say, we need federal funding and relief, and then send federal funds back to the states because of the problems, and then in Illinois, they give that money to the extremists. Remarkable. Let me show you how insane it really is. From the Washington Examiner, Black Lives Matter's millions unaccounted for after leaders quietly jumped ship. No one appears to have been no one appears to have been in charge of Black Lives Matter for months. The address it lists on tax forms is wrong, and the charity's 2 board members won't say who controls its $60 million bankroll. A Washington Examiner investigation found BLM's shocking lack of transparency surrounding its finances and operations raises major legal and ethical red flags, multiple charity experts told the Examiner. Look how bad it's gotten. Black Lives Matter shuts down fundraising days after liberal states threaten legal action. Perhaps it was all a big farce from the get-go. And if that's the case, why are Democrats in Illinois giving money to these people? Why are our tax dollars at the federal level being given to these people? Being diverted to the states? Man, I don't even know what to say. You've got the January 6th stuff. You've got the feds overtly acting in partisan ways. Let me just explain to you. When the far left extremists, including Antifa and Black Lives Matter, showed up, I think it was in June of what year was it? Was it 2020? In front of the White House, they set fire to a guard building, a little guard building on the White House grounds. They were trying to jump the fence. They tore down the security perimeter and they set fire to a church. Trump was ushered into an emergency bunker. They didn't call that an insurrection. Nope. The media didn't care. The media actually complained about the police and what the police did. They blamed Trump for all of this. You see the double standard? You see how the game is being played? Yo, you need to get out there and vote in the primaries. You need to get out there and vote local. You need to vote at the state level. There needs to be action taken. We have a chance. Special shout out to all of the truckers. There's rumors now of a U.S. trucker convoy, but shout out to the truckers in Canada. Shout out to everybody standing up against the exploitation from the elites, how they're manipulating this country, destroying it and burning it from the ground up for their psychotic vision. Well, at least I can say this. All of this makes me feel that, the establishment is losing control. And we are winning. Freedom is winning. We're exposing this. If you want to support our work and the journalism we do, timcast.com. But shout out to the Washington Examiner for their investigation. In this story, they say, Black Lives Matter shut down all of its online fundraising streams late Wednesday afternoon, just days after California threatened to hold the charity's leaders personally liable over its lack of financial transparency. The move comes less than a week after a Washington Examiner investigation found that BLM has no known leader in charge of its $60 million bankroll since its co-founder resigned. California and Washington recently ordered BLM to cease all fundraising activities in their blue states due to the failure of the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, the legal entity that represents the national BLM movement, to report information about its finances in 2020. The year it raised tens of millions amid the racial protests and riots that followed the George Floyd incident. Apparently, during the Examiner's investigation, they went to the address on file. What did they find? Nothing. It wasn't the right address. Nobody was there. So what's going on? Where's this money going? It's going somewhere. Quote, We take these matters seriously, and we have taken immediate action. An unidentified spokesperson for the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation told the Examiner. We have immediately engaged Compliance Council to address any issues related to state fundraising compliance. In the interim, we have shut down online fundraising as we work quickly to ensure we are meeting all compliance requirements. The donation button that used to be featured prominently on BLM's website was nowhere to be found as of Wednesday evening. The California Department of Justice told the Examiner on Tuesday that BLM GNF is prohibited from soliciting donations so long as its status is listed as delinquent. Despite the notice, BLM accepted a $1 donation from a Washington Examiner reporter based in California on Wednesday morning. The California DOJ said Wednesday afternoon that it would not confirm or deny any investigation into BLM so as to protect its integrity. BLM also received notice from the state of Washington on January 5th to immediately cease all fundraising activities in the state. Washington warned the charity that it could face fines of $2,000 for each violation. But as recently as Monday, the charity accepted a $1 contribution from a Washington resident. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita previously said BLM's refusal to answer basic questions about its finances and operations fits a common and disturbing pattern. Quote, "It appears the house of cards may be falling, and this happens eventually with nearly every scam, scheme, or illegal enterprise," Rokita, a Republican, said in an interview with the Washington Examiner. "I see patterns that scams kind of universally take. Failure to provide board members, failure to provide even executive directors, failure to make your filings available. It all leads to suspicion." Rokita said he would not confirm or deny that his office is investigating BLM, but he said the Washington Examiner's reporting on the group certainly caused us to be concerned. BLM's charity registration is also out of compliance in Connecticut, Maine, Maryland, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Carolina, and Virginia. Wow, man. Well, it's shocking. It's offensive. It's enlightening. But I suppose it's good news. Now, look, it's bad news they were able to get away with this kind of operation for as long as they did. It's bad news that we see Democrats funding local chapters of this. It's bad it happened. So it's a net negative across the board, but at least we're pulling back and we're seeing Andrew Kerr for the Washington Examiner investigating this and exposing this. At least we're seeing reporting, thanks to timcast.com and many, many others, we aren't the only ones reporting on this, showing the Democrats were funneling COVID-19 relief funds to a local Black Lives Matter chapter. It's being exposed. I think we're calling it out, and I think we're going to win. Now, right now, there are people like you or I, not necessarily conservative, you're not necessarily conservative or liberal or centrist or political. I mean, just regular people. I consider myself to be moderate, centrist, kind of leaning a little left on economic issues and social issues, but the far left is so far left, right? Whatever. The point is, I'm not here to just champion Republicans or conservatives. I think Republicans, if you guys go out and vote locally and in the primaries, there's an opportunity for a convention of states and maybe some, a return to normalcy. Maybe that's through the Republican Party, though I don't agree with a lot of Republican policy. I don't want to sit here and just claim that, the right is the right path, that the Republicans are the right path, but I can certainly tell you whatever this is a corruption. It is a corruption deep in the heart of this country, and we need to root it out. The woke left has nothing but lust for power. And that's why, there's a funny tweet from this woman, and she does these really cringy dances supporting Democrats. And she's like, apparently now liberals aren't lefties, news to me. And I'm just like, dude, liberals haven't been on the left for a long time. Maybe you guys would wake up and smell the roses, as it were, and realize that the left doesn't like you. But you know what? I'm not a fan of these establishment activist types either. They're corporatist, they're fascists, and that's the reality. No, for me, I'm just kind of like, let me tell you guys something. I think I was thinking about something. We're building a new building. We're expanding our facility. We're building a new building. We're growing rapidly. It's amazing. We're hiring more people. There's a lot happening here. And I thought to myself, I'm not contributing to the problems of this planet. I use biodegradable, Keurig cups and everything. They're made of like corn plastic. They biodegrade. It's fantastic. And we try to be respectful. We don't want to overconsume. I'm building this building. It's not that big a deal. But then I realized something. That is the deal. That is the problem, right? No, the snowflake doesn't blame itself for the avalanche. We're all contributing to a lot of these problems. So I very much want to protect the environment. I want to stop overconsumption. I understand that humans consume, and we can't just grow forever. I don't think the solution is right now to just burn it all to the ground. I don't think, Greta Thunberg, her solution is is genocide. And I know people might say, oh, that's hyperbolic. That's not true. If someone comes out and says, giant meteor should slam into the earth, you'd be like, that will kill a lot of people. And they'll be like, well, I'm not saying people should die. No, listen. When Greta Thunberg comes out and says, we can't wait until 2030, we need to shut off fossil fuels now. Perhaps she's just ignorant, but that would kill tens of millions of people. I don't think that's the solution. If you kill off humans or cause mass suffering and death, then what's the point of even being here? If we're on a trajectory towards mass death, then maybe we can try to mitigate that to the best of our abilities or accept that we're going to crash into that wall. But the idea that individuals would take extreme action that would result in mass death just defeats the purpose of trying to stave off the mass death in the first place. So my point is this. I want a better world. I want people to live free. I don't like racism, anti-Semitism, transphobia, homophobia. I want people to have their rights respected, to be able to live peacefully. It's not so easy. When you have people like these BLM actors, they're inherently selfish. They want money for them. These lefties, they look to people like me and they're like, he shouldn't have the things he has. He shouldn't be able to have this building and he shouldn't be able to build this stuff. And I'm like, dude, it's just hard work. It's not even necessarily hard work. It's just work. It's just do work. I have a mission. We have a mission here at Timcast. Individual responsibility, personal freedoms, and making the world generally a better place. Free inquiry, free association, logic, reason, and real solutions. That's what I hope to accomplish. These people, they don't want any of that stuff. They want power. They want to control you. They just want. And from that causes suffering. And that is what we experience when these people are given power. They go around burning down cities. You're never going to see me marching down the street in antifa garb with a torch or anything like that. I think violence is wrong. And a lot of people are like, no, Tim, you don't understand. Comes a time, maybe 400 years ago, I get. But right now, nonviolent civil disobedience works. And the truckers are proving it every day. And that's what I think works, making the world a better place and not resorting to the extremism. The establishment, they support Black Lives Matter and their violence. We're not going to make the world a better place by using the tactics of those we think are wrong. There's no ends justifying the means because you will never meet the end. Unless you think the end is the apocalypse and wiping out mankind, then sure, eventually you can meet the end. But if your plan is to make the world a better place, you will not make the world a better place by funding racists and racial identitarians, extremists, violent rioters. You're just actively making everything worse for everyone. But you know what? Many of these people think they deserve it. They think, I don't care about what happens, just give me the money. Well, now they're getting exposed and good. Let me show you how bad it is. It's not even as bad as there's more bad stuff, but look at this. A COVID-19 relief fund was only for Black residents. Then came the lawsuit. Oregon earmarked $62 million to explicitly benefit Black individuals and business owners. Now some of the money is in limbo after lawsuits alleging racial discrimination. This is the world they want to create. Racial segregation. I don't. I think that's disgusting. You know what's funny? My vision of the future is people of all different religions and races all holding hands, rocking back and forth, singing songs under a rainbow. I'd like to imagine that world is possible. But how do you get that world? These leftists who think, like, oh, well, we want all that stuff too. Yeah. How do you create a world where all different people of all different backgrounds can live peacefully when you're actively sowing dissent and segregation, when you're actively making people hate each other and fight each other? You don't. No, I think the establishment Democrats want the conflict because they can use it to win elections and gain more power. I think most people think that's the case. At least people who are not Democrats are Democrat activists, which is why I want to show you this. U.S. political party preferences shifted greatly during 2021. You've seen it before. I've covered it before, but at the end of 2021, party affiliation flipped. 47% Republican, 42% Democrat. From another poll from Gallup, only 17% of Americans are satisfied with the direction of the company. Of the company. There's a Freudian slip. Regular people have had enough. They're saying the Democrats have failed us. The Black Lives Matter groups have caused us strife and anger. And it's about time we make a change. Now, I have to add, I don't think Republicans are going to save you from this one. The only person who's going to save you from this crisis is you. Now, the Republicans do offer a path to victory. The Democrats have made their bed and they can lay in it. For the rest of us, there's an opportunity to seize the Republican Party. Donald Trump led that charge in 2015, 2016. He got in, he won, he became president even. But the Republican Party was still split between establishment figures, uniparty members, and populist America First Republican types. Now, the Democratic Party represents the establishment. Neocons fled and joined them, people like the Lincoln Project. And the Republican Party can become something interesting, something unique, something new. If you go out and vote locally and you vote in the primaries, find out who the establishment politicians are, vote them out in the primaries. I don't care if they're incumbents or not. Get free stater types, people who want to repeal these garbage laws, end all the division, and just say, you choose for yourself. That's the kind of person you need to be supporting in the Republican primary. And I think there's an opportunity here because people are identifying that way. But what worries me is that when people are late to the party, right? In 2021, even after, the second quarter, with Joe Biden's failings, you still have 49% saying they're Democrats. These people who are now flipping to Republican, you know what they're going to do? They're going to show up in November and say, the Democrats let me down. I think I'll vote Republican this time. And they'll hit the R button. They won't know who they're voting for. They won't have participated in the primaries. And you'll end up with establishment and Republicans and neocons. So it's more than just going out and voting. It's all of you realizing ground game is how Democrats win and how you push back. And I'll tell you this, for Democrats too, get more populist leftists in. That's fine by me. Just get rid of the establishment types. Though many of these leftists support Black Lives Matter, so I'm not going to be siding with them anytime soon. You need to go out and talk to people. You need to show them stories like this. You need to show them videos of people whose lives were destroyed by the riots. You need to explain to them how CNN is lying. You know, I've done a lot of videos and people ask, like, what can I do? People don't want to listen. They don't want to wake up. Show them this from Gallup. Be like, look at this. And let them be like, well, those people are dumb. Be like, listen, man, you can think they're dumb all day and night, but you're on the wrong side of history. That's what these activists keep trying to say to everybody. You're on the wrong side of history. You know what the right side of history is? Standing true to yourself, standing up for what you believe in, and speaking truth to power. Sometimes that's considered the left. Sometimes it's not. Right now in Canada, the truckers are standing up and they're saying no to fascism. And it's the left protesting against it. Amazing. A worker uprising. Do you want to be on the side of the workers or the government establishment politicians ruling by decree? I think this is one of the big stories that's waking people up. Since when were the truckers the elites? And then they say, oh, but they're far right and white supremacists. 50,000 truckers are all evil far right racists? You don't really believe that, do you? Look at these videos of people celebrating. It's a popular uprising. Black Lives Matter in many ways. It was people, marching along with the narrative because, nobody, for the most part, we don't like racism. But many of these people were late to the party and they didn't understand what they were supporting. Now with the truckers, the media is trying to demonize them. Well, here's the problem. The media supported a popular uprising from these Black Lives Matter supporters who actually burned down buildings. And now you have truckers, workers, throwing out people with Confederate flags and Nazi flags, and they're trying to claim they're racists. Regular people are seeing through the lies. They're waking up. They're seeing these stories. They're seeing Black Lives Matter and there's other extremists exposed. And they're realizing they've been lied to. We all have. I know it's hard because people say that even with videos like this, they're like, my family won't watch it. They say you're far right or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, it is what it is, you know? Have them watch Timcast IRL if you can, I guess. They'll still probably say, that far right guy. I know. It's difficult. But show them the stories. You know, read them an article. Say, here's proof. Show them the videos. And if they don't want to believe it, then maybe it's time to recognize they just literally don't want to listen to the truth. I don't know what you do in that instance, you know, people who are too tribal. I think these people will only come around once they realize they're losing. That's why I say share this Gallup story. Because maybe these people aren't motivated by truth. They're motivated by fear of being ostracized. You can be like, I'm going to go hang out with the majority of people who believe in reality, and you can play with the fringe minority that's losing power. Maybe that's one way to do it. Or just do what you think is right. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all then.